So a few weeks ago, we asked you who you would like to see on the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. And we've had, quite a few emails. I've actually had loads of messages on Instagram, on the Instagram DMs, which has been awesome because now I finally understand what that phrase, sliding into my DMs, means. Also, I think it's a really good point to mention that I have not had any weird photos on Instagram. So take from that what you will, like figure out your own description, but I've not had any weird photos on Instagram sent to me through the DMs. Now, I could take that to mean that I'm not the kind of person who people want to send those photos to, and I wouldn't be unhappy about that. But I'm going to take it to mean that I somehow set clear boundaries with my content, so people just don't want to send me those kinds of pictures. Yay. I feel like this is a win either way. But we asked who you would like to see on the Smart Leaders Sell podcast, and you came back to us with some really awesome names. And so over the next few weeks, you're going to see some people, hopefully some familiar faces, having very different conversations, which I'm really excited about. And one of the people that came as a resounding yes from different sources was the person that I've brought onto the podcast today. So today I have brought on the amazing Amber McCue to the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. And Amber has this phenomenal business. Okay, so she has multiple different income streams. She is somebody who has had previous successful businesses. She had a photography business prior to her consulting firm. She is also an amazing mum of three children. How does anyone manage that? Like, how are you that superhuman? So she's an amazing mum of three, and she's currently out traveling and living in Ethiopia with her children. And she's doing a lot of fundraising out there as well, which is just a phenomenal endeavor. So I managed to catch up with Amber out in Ethiopia, and we recorded this amazing episode today, which really digs into some of my favorite topics on the ideas of leadership, but also some sneak peeks from Amber about where her business is going in 2019. So if you are looking for the inside scoop on a 7-figure business owner and how they are moving their business through the current economic climate, this is an awesome episode. Enjoy. Okay, poddies, are you as excited as I am to dig into this conversation with the incredible Amber McCue, who has taken time out of her schedule to join us today? Welcome, Amber.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am so excited. And we me and Amber had this crazy back and forth on email because Amber is one of you guys, superhuman mums. Like, I don't know how you do it. You have 3 children, right?
I do, but I really just have 2 little ones because my oldest is in college in Santa Barbara. So I've got a huge gap.
Oh, I love that. And so we've been coming back and forth on email, trying to hook up a time to have this chat today. And one of your little ones was ill. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I would cope as a parent. I think I would just fall apart because my whole schedule, if my whole schedule went out, I'm the type of OCD person that would be really freaked out about that. But you were great. You just handled it like a boss, and it was so impressive.
Well, you actually adapted very well to my schedule change. So for someone who feels like they might go OCD, you rolled with it. And I am so grateful for that. And that's something that I make sure, like, I have invited people and connected with people who are so understanding when life happens. So that is something I think that we can all just attract. We have the opportunity. And I did. I mean, you guys, I messaged Jessica. I think we were literally supposed to be, or maybe I even messaged you 15 minutes and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm rubbing the back of a puking kid. Actually, just one of my daughters. The other daughter is the one I told you about later, who had chickenpox and 4 stomach bugs already this year. And she's 4 years old and had mono. So we have just been dealing with everything. And, I have learned to roll with it. I think that's something that parenting gives us.
And I really love that because everyone always assumes that the life of an entrepreneur is so glamorous. And I'm like,
Oh,
I
man.
love whenever I talk to anybody, they're always like, oh God, this happened today. Or I was saying to one of my clients the other day, I was like, hang on a minute. I don't know what my dog has on him. And he had like whipped cream on his back. And I was like, I don't know where this has come from or how it's happened. But the life of an entrepreneur is not as glamorous as sometimes it seems.
Oh my gosh. No, it is not. I mean, it's a lot of sweatpants and dry shampoo on my end.
Team sweatpants. I think that is definitely a good term. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm really excited to dig in this conversation with you. So for everybody out there who is one of the poddies, we have a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants, a lot of creative business people and creative entrepreneurs who listen to the podcast. Could you tell us a little bit about the journey from, deciding to build your business to where you are now?
Oh, yes, I can definitely share into that. And I think somewhere in my core, I always knew that I was going to run a business, which is kind of a backwards way to go about it. Like, I want to run a business, I want to create, I want to build something, and I want to serve, but I didn't know what. I think it's a lot easier if you know what, and you're not meandering for a little while. Because I went down a lot of paths, like, no, detour, turn around, no, U-turn, because I wasn't clear, but I knew I wanted to serve. And all the while, I was showing up and serving in my full-time job, in my consulting business. And I think what really prompted me to start to seriously and unfolded this path that I call everything is right on time way of being. But I was working at my consulting job at a consulting firm, and I started getting what I thought, chest pains, panic attacks, and my hands were turning blue. And I thought, whoa, of course I went to the doctor for this, got some feedback, right? All the things. I'm way too young to be experiencing stress like this. So I changed jobs. I started going through an MBA program to start to explore and pursue something different. And I also started picking up a camera again, all in an effort to get creative and de-stress. And I say again, but the last time I had really picked up a serious camera was in high school, and it was manual. And now we're in this whole world of digital. So I had a lot to learn.
Oh, wow.
In addition, I found out after some food testing and some migraines, that's what the food testing was tied to, I was allergic to garlic. And that's where I was getting the chest pressure and the chest pain. So I wasn't having like stress, pain, pressure. It was just garlic. So crazy way and path to find out, like, all right, you got to do something different with your life. But it was a prompt and something that I needed, because I was going through that consulting job, and I would drive home at 9 o'clock at night, and I was in my blue VW Golf thinking, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. I love it. I can get fired up about it. I'm clearly pouring a lot into it, but it wasn't the thing. And that series of events, all beginning with the garlic allergy, prompted me to explore and do something different. And actually, Jessica, as you now know, the first business I started was a photography business. Me picking up the camera again evolved into starting a boudoir photography business, 3boudoir.com, not suitable for work or kids. But then it was after that I started my online consulting business. So my road is a little bit winding, but everything happened right on time and sort of led me to the next destination.
So I really love that you said you always knew that you wanted a business, because I didn't. Like, I fell into entrepreneurship like you. I had an experience with a chronic illness that meant that I couldn't work anymore. But I had never thought about owning my own business, and people had kind of said it to me over the years. I think because I was quite bossy, and I did not hold back when it came to giving feedback. I think that was the biggest thing. But I didn't ever contemplate that as being a road that I wanted to go down. I kind of imagined myself staying in the job and doing the whole 2.4 lifestyle thing and handing in my briefcase at 60. So for me, it's always really interesting to meet people who say, yeah, for me, I always knew there was something different. And it tends to be people who are more creative. Would you say that's true for you?
I like to think I'm creative, but I no longer take pictures for our photography business. I can put together some fabulous PowerPoint slides, and my sister says, oh, you should go do design. But at my core, I think I'm more creative in my thinking, and I really value and appreciate creatives and the work that creatives do, but I'm a creative thinker. So yes, but, or yes, and.
I love that. I love that. And I also, when we were off, I don't know, do you even call it off camera? Like poddies, what do you call it when you're not hitting record yet, but you're off air? Let's say that.
Off air, that was good.
Yeah, I'm like, that sounded pro. So when we were off air, you talked about this photography business. And I was saying to you, you know, we have a lot of creative people in my audience who often say, look, it's really hard to make money as a creative. And people come to me and they'll say, but Jess, you just don't understand, you know, there's only a certain amount of me and I can only take so many photos, or I can only do so many weddings, etc., etc. And when I talk to these people, I'm always like, look, you've got to look at how you can leverage your business and how you can, you know, leverage the actual tangible skill to help you monetize further. And you've done that really successfully with your photography business.
Yes. And I think to what your community says to you and to what you say, what Jess says to you who's listening, the answer is yes to both of those things. And you've definitely got to find a way to leverage. And yes, you are only one person. So this is a puzzle that we get to solve. This is where the creative thinking comes in. That's the fun part. And we leverage something in my businesses that I call scalable intimacy. So when you're doing all of the work yourself, you can create an incredible intimacy with and for your clients. And then when you start to leverage and scale, the puzzle and the riddle that we get to figure out is, how do we create intimacy at scale? And that's what we've really worked to do in the photography business. And I'm working on some new stuff in the Amber McCue consulting business as well, to leverage that in a different way and to apply this thinking in a different way. But how can you scale and still maintain intimacy is what we get to work towards.
So I love this. And also that phrase, scale intimacy. Like, seriously, can we just take like a little prayer hand emoji moment? Because phenomenal.
I'm doing the motion now.
But I love that. And I think for me, it's almost something you already in a way practice, because you have these like huge movements. So you created the Planathon, which has over 10,000 people who have joined and rave about the Planathon each year.
You're right. And we do apply that. And I think there is so much opportunity for me to apply it even better and even more. So I'm constantly just working it. And it's this idea of when you've got even 10,000 people, or you've got 200 people, because let's face it, once you get past about 100, then once you get, I mean, if you're doing one-to-one work, once you get past maybe 10, like, okay, how can I start to make people feel incredible, even though it's just me? So one of the things that we do in the Planathon, where there are now, you know, we started at a couple hundred and we've grown to, yes, over 10,000. We think, how can we make them feel special? And one of my goals every Planathon is to make sure every comment at least gets a like we see every comment. And I personally like to see every comment. And sometimes throughout the week, because it's a busy planning week, I might get a little bit behind, but I make sure I go back.
I really like that.
Yeah, because I want to see, I want to experience, and I want to connect with the community. And to do that, we've really got to put systems in place. So that goes back to your point, how can you get leverage? We've got to put strong systems in place for that to make sure I can do that.
And it's so interesting. I mean, I ran an Internet Evolution Challenge a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, I'm the same as you. We have many people who join the challenge. And for me, I kind of see it as my opportunity to give back to my community, because, you know, the rest of the year I promote programs and I do lots of other things that add value, but ultimately do also involve my sales process. And so my challenges are the time where I can really sit back and make that time to give them feedback on their posts and, you know, make sure that every comment goes answered and all that kind of thing. And actually, it's a really great way to deepen that relationship you have with your community. You know, I see a lot of people promoting challenges now that are not community based, as in they're purely run by email, or they're not encouraging people to hit reply and let them know what they think or give any feedback. And I think that's a really damaging business strategy, because effectively what you're doing is you're saying to people, oh, it's cool, like you can buy from me, but also from anyone else, you know, relationship at will. And it makes people feel like they're paying to be your friend rather than paying you for a service, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think all of the models work. It just has to be in alignment with who you are and how you show up.
Yeah.
And it is not, maybe someday, well, I'm getting closer to using more sales type automation because I realized actually when I started my podcast, that's when I realized like, oh, this is crazy intimate. Like I am spilling the beans on the deepest parts of my life, just into this microphone, right? While I'm talking to you right now. But email doesn't feel, or actually the automations of email, I pour my heart out, but it doesn't feel like, oh, they're just clicking. That was 3 weeks ago. So I've got intentionally, and from a values alignment perspective, I'm off a little bit there, but it can work great for some people. Like I know people that it works great for. I'm not there yet. So I think it depends on where people are in their journey and how you can show up and serve best.
I like that point because again, it comes down to what kind of seller you are. You know, we talk about a lot about proactive sales and about automated sales on the podcast. And I think one of the things that people often feel is super sexy is this idea of I'm going to have funnels, you know, and don't get me wrong, like 90% of my business runs on funnels. So I do like them. I do love to binge Netflix and know that they're going out there and doing the hard work, right? Lazypreneur moment. But I think it's so important to know what you actually enjoy and how you enjoy selling. Because if you're not the person who wants to necessarily be disconnected from your audience, setting up funnels can be really hard work because it removes you from their success. It removes you from the feedback loop. It removes you from, you know, the fence sitters almost, because there's only so much you can do in that automation. Whereas when you're able to be part of something like the Planathon, and you are commenting on their posts, you're making them feel valued and you're really building that kind of relationship that means they can reach out to you and be like, hey, Amber, I think I'd love to join this, but you know, is it right for me? Is it okay for me to ask you that kind of thing?
Yes. I loved what you said in there about you remove yourself from the feedback loop, because I think that's where scalable intimacy can come into play as well. Like if you're scaling something up, like we did our photography business, we're almost at $1 million in revenue. Everybody, I would love it. Set intention for $1 million this year, but we're right there knocking on $1 million's door. And we have a team of 20 people. And one of our core values is experience. And so how do you maintain experience when you're shooting with thousands of people a year and you've got a team and you're kind of removed from that actual experience, and you've got to build in feedback loops even as you scale it, right? Because people need to be rewarded for taking action. So if you're going to invite them to do something different, to take an action step, what's the reward? What's the loop that makes them want to invest in this experience and taking the next step in their life? Whether it's coaching, consulting, or booking a photography shoot, or doing design work, there's got to be something in there that continues moving them forward. And I think those feedback loops are incredibly valuable as market research, engaging people and helping people continue to move forward. And I think one of the key things is when you ask for that feedback, do something with it, because then it begins the relationship that you can automate.
I love that. And I think that's so important because a lot of people, I think sometimes we get caught up in this idea that feedback is critical. You know, I don't know whether you ever find that, but some people will say to me, oh, you know, I really hate feedback. Getting feedback makes me feel uncomfortable. And so they don't ask for it because they're like, if somebody says something, they didn't like something, then it's going to make me feel bad. And I think, you know, we need to be looking at feedback as more of an opportunity to do better.
Big time. Big time. And, you know, the feedback I get isn't always fabulous. There's always something to improve on. And there's always, in the one program that we run Freshly Implemented, there are a lot of different components to it. There's masterminding, there's some one-on-one, you know, there's a training component. And some people say like, I don't really like that part. I'm like, cool. I know that not everything is going to be for everyone, but can you tell me more about what you do like, what you don't like? And then it's market research, right? How can we improve, to your point, opportunity to serve and grow as an individual and for our community? Because sometimes somebody will say something, you're like, I don't like that either. Let's delete it. For example, once my clients said to me, you really need to add a membership, a space where we can go to content. Because I was delivering it all in Facebook at the time, because that's where people were. So I'm like, okay, cool. They asked for it, ask and you shall receive, right? And then I set it up and the person came back to me and said, never mind, nobody goes there. I love it. It's great feedback and we're involved in this relationship. It's not one and done. It's not like they give me the feedback. You don't have a membership or a space for the content, so I'm out. because it wasn't that high of a priority, clearly. But you start to get in this relationship when you're asking for and responding to feedback. And that doesn't always have to be a one-on-one or a phone conversation, or, it can be a survey where you reply or click here. I mean, so many different options.
I love that. I think you're exactly on that right track of especially being able to adapt to the situation. I love what you said about, sometimes you don't like it either, so you just get rid of it. I think a lot of people end up, especially in the online industry recently, just doing things because they see other people doing them. They're like, oh, that person has a membership site, so I should. Or that person's using Facebook ads, so I should. Or that person's using this particular font, so I should. And I think sometimes it's really about digging in and connecting to what we actually want. And that's something that you preach a lot.
Yeah, I do. And I will tell you, it is not easy. I'm going through a little bit of a shift in structure, strategy, messaging right now. Not massive. Everything else, everything that I've talked about and engaged and leveraged for years still applies, but I'm sort of ready to layer something new in. And I'm experiencing the same thing. I'm thinking the market is crowded. And when I first launched my programs in the past, How to Clone Yourself, Freshly Implemented, CEO School, they were the Planathon, they were different. And it's harder to differentiate, especially in the online coaching consulting space, especially if you are in business consulting and coaching, because there are a lot of options for people.
Yeah. There are a lot of options, and everybody now looks the same. Like everyone's providing the same options, and I think this is something that you do really well, in that you differentiate yourself, even with the language you use. Your podcast, The Modern CEO, sounds very different. It sounds like something that is much higher barrier to entry than, the general consensus of podcasts out there, which is, hey, fempreneur, learn X, and that kind of thing. And I was really impressed by that. It made me think, oh yeah, I'm the CEO and I'm a modern woman. And so this is something that interests me. It brings me in. And I think that we've become really afraid to differentiate ourselves.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. I have goosebumps right now because the secret, I don't even know if it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. So don't hold me to this, guys. But I might change the name of the podcast.
Oh, that is so exciting. Can I ask why? Like, now that I've waxed lyrical about it, I'm like, oh my God, is she going to change it? Am I going to love it?
And it's scary for me because it is different. And I've seen people, right, the title CEO, I think, is becoming something that's being used quite a lot as well. So I'm seeing CEO more and more, and it could just be because I'm close to it, right? That there's a name for that. And so I'm thinking of changing it because of that shift in my messaging and really the journey that I have gone on. And one of my clients recently said to me, actually, Haley from Trunk Creative said, you're like a whole different person. I'm like, you're right, I am. And I've used all of the things in my business, the strategies, the structures that I talk about, but I'm also now layering in a different way of being and a different way of thinking, that everything is right on time because you can't be late for your destiny. So shifting into this space of right on time, thinking and being, and how does that impact who we show up as a CEO and as a leader in our business and our lives?
I love that. And I just listened to your episode about right on time Rita. So that made me.
Yes, you know who I'm talking about. Okay, seriously, do you love it? Or do you think waters things down?
No, do you know, I love it. I really do, because I think for me, it's not even about the name that is intriguing and interesting to me. It's the concept. And I think that's something that we haven't seen online for such a long time, is this idea of interesting concepts. Like, everyone can sell the same thing. Basically, everyone does. You sell one-to-one, you sell group offers, you sell automated, passive, whatever. The concepts have all become so samey and dull. And I'm tired of seeing people say, oh, you have to be a rebel, or you have to do this, you have to do that. And actually, it's that idea that no, there is a right time to become who you are supposed to be. And that is going to happen. And here's just how you're going to move through that plan until it takes effect.
Mic drop from Jessica. Thank you. And you're all like, this is an example to you as you listen of how I'm going through that differentiation process and evolving and doing my things and really struggling to, okay, what's the differentiator? Because that's a core value of mine. And I'm constantly asking myself, how can I serve at the highest level? And service is an ongoing theme of mine. And how can we serve bigger? How can we serve better? And bigger doesn't necessarily mean more people, but it's what's bigger for you and what's bigger for me. So I'm asking myself that question. What's bigger for you, Amber? What does that mean to you? Because in many cases, I think small and intimacy means playing big. Like that's small is the new big. So what's my bigger? What's my next level? And this is part of that evolution.
It's really interesting. I'm going to be really intrigued to see how that plays out, because I think, you know, it's an interesting market right now. You know, I love what you just said there about small being big. And it's true, because everybody wants to fit the norm. And the question that you're asking yourself isn't how can I break out of the norm? It's how can I serve better so that the current normal doesn't fit the performers anymore.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think we're constantly creating sort of a new normal for ourselves, but as we work with our clients. But I think that whole pace it feels very accelerated right now. Like there's this big shift happening in online business and in business ownership. And I think that each and every one of us have a very big opportunity to not just do a challenge because they said do a challenge, right? And when my clients come to me and say, okay, you know, what should I launch with? I'm like, well, let's talk about who you're serving, how you're serving them, how you show up best, and what's the experience, again, going back to scalable intimacy, what's the experience you want to take people through? Let's talk about that first. Then let's talk about whether you do a webinar or a challenge or an automated funnel or, you know, any number of things that we can plug and play into it. But if you're not clear on the experience you want to create, everything's going to fall flat.
I love that. I'm just hoping that experience is going to find its way as a word or as some kind of synonym into your new naming structures, because I think that's so powerful for you.
Yeah. And honestly, thinking of experience a little bit more, when I started to live differently and show up differently, so moving to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, right, going through the experience of moving 15 times last year, when I started to have different experiences, that's when I realized, again, how I can differentiate in a crowded marketplace.
And so I've traveled a lot, and I traveled extensively as a child, and I travel extensively as an adult. But I think travel gives you a really different perspective on people, on how we behave, on different cultures, and it gives you the ability to kind of pick and choose the most awesome bits from every country, every culture, every state, and put them into your own, I don't know, like little black book of tools that can actually help people learn differently.
I could not agree more. And I don't even think it has to be international travel.
No.
Like when I was just traveling around the United States, Maryland to California, very different vibes. Very, very different. I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart is in California, in Southern.
I love that. Did you have Maryland cookies? Because as somebody who is a Brit, I have never tasted a real Maryland cookie, and all we ever get over here are these stupid like red packets, and I'm like, is that really what everyone's chirping about over there?
Wait, what are Maryland cookies?
So they come in this red packet here. You can buy them in the supermarkets, and they're I don't know, they're about 3 inches in diameter, and they've got like chocolate chips, and you can have like chocolate chip ones or nut ones, and they call them Maryland cookies, and I'm like, and they claim to be from Maryland.
No, definitely not. I'm so sorry.
Breaking all my dreams.
Speaking of food and differentiators, I work with an organization here in Ethiopia that puts on a bazaar every year for nonprofit, and we raise money. And then there's a board within the organization that gives money back to organizations that are building sustainability models. So we run this fundraising bazaar, and every country participates and shows up and brings something from their country that they're going to sell. And there's some requirements about it, so we don't have to charge VAT, and it's just fundraising, et cetera. So I'm like, okay, I'm from the United States. What really differentiates us? I'm thinking some crafts and apple pie and lemonade. And no, guess what we sold?
Please tell me it's French fries.
No, not even French fries. Or actually, we might have had French fries at the food booth, but we represented the processed food section, which French fries kind of fits under. We had Hershey syrup, Oreos, Doritos. I'm like, is this really what people want? Yes, this is what the people wanted, because you can't get it very easily here. And after being here a little while, I'm like, okay, I appreciate the value of an Oreo. but I was such in shock. That's an example of when you want to survey your audience, because you don't always know what the people want.
That's so funny. So I love that you've talked just literally in this 20 minutes alone about, you've got the photography business as one stream, you have your Amber McCue consulting as another stream, you're also working with organizations out in Ethiopia, which is just phenomenal. Like, seriously, you're such a good human being. I need to go out and ramp up my voluntary rates. But that's a lot of different ways to bring the income into your life, so multiple income streams seems to be a big thing for you. Is that because you're creative, or just because you're great at spotting opportunities?
Oh, well, I definitely go through dry spells of not spotting the opportunity, but I think that it's one part. Yeah, when the right idea comes, you just got to test it out, in my opinion. And I've tested some flops, as I shared, those detours and U-turns, like a concierge business. That was one of the early ones, multiple MLMs. So I'm not always great at spotting the opportunity, but I think that you can feel it, like inside in your being, when you're like, oh, this is good. Like, this is really good. And then I don't always trust, like the Hershey syrup. I don't always, in the Oreos, I don't always trust my perspective. So then you get out there and you test it a little bit. And when it starts to take off and get some fuel, okay, keep going with that. So it's a little bit of all of those things that you mentioned.
I love that. And I think it's really interesting, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in, I have lots of ideas. And so they're always launching every new idea. But what you're saying there is about, you spot the opportunities. You don't necessarily always action all of them and not at once. You have to figure out which are the right ones at the right time.
Yes, which one at the right time. And I'm a big fan of one car at a time. And the question and the thinking around this is, how many cars can you drive at a time? It's totally not a trick question. I mean, we can only drive one car, unless we've got till remote controls and drones. But we as individuals can only drive one car. So what is the car you're driving right now? And sometimes that's really hard for me. Like, my team, the first half of the year, they're like, we got a lot of cars, Amber. I'm like, I know. I just don't know which one's the right one. Like, I'm still feeling through this. Don't worry, we'll get back into one car. And, there's some analogies around leverage here. Hey, Malia, can you go drive the red car? I'm going to hop in the blue car. But, as individuals, one car, one focus, and that'll get us a lot further faster.
I love that. In fact, Lee Dumas, he came on the show a few months ago, and he said it's all about 1 inch wide and 1 mile deep. And it's not even surprising to me anymore, but it's so nice to hear so many other entrepreneurs say versions of the same thing. If you focus on one thing and you go deep on that thing, you're going to be so much more successful. Because I think there is that tendency for people to assume, especially when they're looking at people at the middle or the end of their journeys, to feel like, oh, but they have it all and that's how I need to start. And it's really not.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think what's important is, just one thing at a time. It doesn't mean you can't do the other things, but it's going to come right on time. And if you identify what's that thing for me right now, like one example is Reese Witherspoon. I look at her career lately. I'm like, man, she is everywhere. She's doing incredible things. She's got a book club. She's got Hello Sunshine. She's got, films that she is in. She's producing Draper James, a clothing line she has. I mean, she's got her hands in a lot of pots, but she didn't do it all at once. She started as an actress, then layered in the next thing, then the next thing, and it kind of builds and grows from there. And before you know it, all of these small moves, all these small micro decisions, taking one car to one destination, you covered a lot of ground over time.
I love that. And it is true, those small steps lead to the big changes. And I think when people are thinking about that impact they want to make, everyone wants to make this huge impact, but it doesn't, where you are now doesn't define where you're going to be.
Yes. There's a saying here in Africa that hit me so hard. Two things. You know where you are and you know where you're going. And everything in between, like, we're going to figure this out. But just and I have this vision of being, again, with the cars. I don't even like cars that much.
I'm expecting you to have a garage with 17 cars now.
Oh my God. I don't even own a car. That's hilarious. I literally do not drive anymore, guys. So I just theoretically drive. And through the story I drive. But, right, I see, we're here where we are today. You have a vision, you have a dream, you have a goal. And yeah, we're going to make some of those U-turns, but we're going to get there if we stay the course.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Seriously, thank you so much for today. This has been amazing. And I could talk to you for hours, and I know my audience are like, why are you stopping? But I just think that's so powerful. Like that point about really staying your course, knowing where you want to be and making sure that happens. I just think that's a phenomenal point to bring the show to a close. So where can people find you? Because I know that now anyone who didn't know Amber McCue is going to be like, where can I go and binge on all things Amber? So where can they find you?
It's been so much fun hanging out, and I would love to connect with you. I'm at Amber McCue, MCCUE.com. Easy breezy. And then of course the Modern CEO podcast.
I love it. And seriously, guys, the Modern CEO podcast is brilliant. I was listening a couple of days ago to an episode called The C Game, and it's brilliant. It's a really, really good episode. So if you were like me and you leave things occasionally, more often than not, let's be honest, to the last minute, make sure you go and check out that episode, because it gives you a really good idea of why you actually do that and how you can get out of your C game and into your A game. It's a really, really solid episode. Thank you so much, Amber. This has been amazing. And guys, make sure you head over to ambermccue.com. The links are in the show notes, and we will see you for another epic episode on Monday.